allegations against this church refuse to go away. They include disturbing practices like splitting up families, verbal and physical abuse, even holding employees prisoner. But Scientologists take extreme measures to avoid external scrutiny. Measures, it seems, that come at the direction of their leader, the mysterious David Miscavige, who is at the centre of the church's greatest mystery of all, the whereabouts of his wife Shelley, missing now for 13 years. We're driving through this remote mountain range on the trail of missing woman Shelley Miscavige. You certainly feel like you're away from civilization up here, don't you?
Yeah.
The beauty here is matched only by the isolation, making this the perfect hideaway or hiding spot.
Just as secret as it gets, most Scientologists had no idea it existed.
And according to whistleblower Tony Ortega, this is where Shelley could well be, in a secret compound that is also home to a doomsday vault.
No matter how beautiful the setting, it just seems cool.
Shelley is the high priestess of Scientology who vanished 13 years ago. While the church won't speak of it, the belief is Shelley has been banished to this mountain prison by her husband, the leader of the church, the all-powerful David Miscavige.
I think there are a couple places where David Miscavige puts people, and this is one of them.
Shelley, she'll never be free.
Your daughter-in-law.
My daughter-in-law.
Tonight, David Miscavige's own father, Ron Miscavige, gives candid insight into his son's cruelty. Do you think he has the ability, the will, to order his wife be locked away?
Absolutely, there's no question about it.
Next stop, infinity.
I know it's difficult to believe, but the worst thing about this is I'm telling you the truth. That's the worst goddamn thing that's going on in this interview. This happens. These are pretty bad people, but they don't have a conscience, and that lets them do it.
We barely embarked on our story when we got this 7-page letter from the Church of Scientology's Public Affairs Department, putting 60 Minutes on notice, to use their words. They had no direct knowledge of what our story was even about, but somehow had learned that Ron Miscavige was a part of it. They accused us of inciting hate, at the very same time going out of their way to smear Ron, a former 42-year veteran of the church.
Always attack, always attack, always attack. Never defend, attack, attack, attack. If there's no evidence, manufacture it. Come up with something, feed lurid sex, blood crimes to the press. That is Scientology policy, and that's what they do.
Mike Rinder knows because before he left the church, he was one of its most senior enforcers and spin doctors. Today, he's joined forces with Hollywood actress and former Scientologist Leah Remini to call out the church on what it does to people.
You're creating antisocial people, like psychotics, because what we were behind the scenes is insane.
As well as exposing the church, Leah and Mike are crusading for Shelley Miscavige's freedom. They say she's been locked away for more than a decade to protect the church's secrets. Do you believe that Shelley Miscavige is a threat today?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
She's seen it all. She's been by his side the whole time.
Come on, Marty. Got anything to say?
This is the way the church deals with scrutiny,
You're committing suppressive acts.
intimidation, vilification, and cameras are part of their well-practiced routine to bully and harass people who dare to leave or criticise Scientology.
Investigating you on your actions against the Church of Scientology.
Just Channel 9, right?
Our camera crew was immediately in their sights,
No respect. Mate.
just for filming one of their buildings in Los Angeles.
You know, this is our church. Is that normally the way you treat people of religion?
Still in the early stages of our story and too soon to ask for official comment, we earned this angry attack.
Why haven't you contacted the Church of Scientology media relations?
We will.
Why haven't you?
We will. Where is Shelley Miscavige?
Why haven't you contacted media relations for the Church of Scientology?
The question of where Shelley Miscavige is goes unanswered by this representative, who also won't identify herself.
You're creating threats against very innocent, wonderful people, but you won't even bother to contact the Church of Scientology media relations.
I've told you we
won't
will.
even
You
bother.
won't even bother to tell me your name.
What
I don't
is
even
the
know who I'm
point?
talking to. She has a mantra, but still no answers, and her next tactic is to get personal.
Coming here and making it seem dark and mysterious. All that does is you create threats against us. Very innocent people. Why do you come here? Why don't you contact media relations?
We will.
Are you going to do like another piece? I heard about when you kidnapped those 2 children. Is this going to be another thing? Is that how you're going to do this? Are you that dishonest?
The public face of Scientology is far more benevolent, selling itself through celebrity glamour.
I'm part of a frontier in a way, that very few people ever get to be part of.
Its most famous recruit is Hollywood's biggest star, Tom Cruise.
These are the times we will all remember. Were you there?
But this religion, based on self-help psychology, was the 1950 creation of a mere mortal, a science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard.
Do you ever think that you might be quite mad?
Oh, yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard was the master of making people believe the unbelievable. In return for vast sums of money, he'd convince them to relinquish their secrets through so-called auditing of their emotions and experiences. And then, after years of expensive courses, he would let them in on his sacred scriptures that centered around an alien dictator called Xenu. When you do get to that information about Xenu, at that point, do you start to question?
Yes.
And question yourselves that you've been...
Yeah, when you get to those levels, you start to go, this is all a lie. Yeah. It's pretty sad. You spend your whole life and, some of us millions of dollars, some their life savings.
Hey, hon. Are you just getting home now?
Co-star of hit sitcom King of Queens, Leah Remini was signed up to Scientology by her mum when she was just 9. Similarly, Shelley Miscavige was given into the sole care of L. Ron Hubbard by her parents when she was 12. She had to sign a ludicrous billion-year contract to work for almost nothing.
I mean, it's still going on today. Parents are giving up their children to go join the Sea Org. They think that's the most important thing that they could do, is to give their children to Scientology.
Could you imagine it?
No, over my dead body.
It was in the Sea Org that Shelley met the young David Miscavige, both so devoted to L. Ron Hubbard, they were Scientology's perfect power couple.
Welcome to church.
With the death of L. Ron, David ultimately assumed leadership, and his wife Shelley was second in charge. They were the king and queen of Scientology. And then in 2005, Shelley disappeared. So when did you first ask, where are you? Where is
At
she?
Tom's wedding in 2006.
Tom Cruise's wedding
Yeah.
to Katie Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Because she wasn't there.
She wasn't there. Scientology was calling it the wedding of the century.
It would be a really natural question to ask, wouldn't it?
It was scatter, scatter, scatter. I was standing by a fireplace in this big castle, and I'm like, hey, where's Shelley? And all of a sudden everybody walks away, and I was like, hey, coming back, or just, you guys getting a drink, or...
Shelley Miscavige being missing, it is literally like suddenly Prince Philip shows up and there's no queen. I'm serious.
Like at one of the biggest events.
For the Queen's birthday celebration, there's Prince Philip and Harry and Charles, and no Queen.
Their account may be funny, but the simple question of where is Shelley Miscavige brought with it a world of pain for Leah. She was summoned to Scientology headquarters in Clearwater, Florida. There, she was forced to undergo intense auditing for 3 to 4 months for her crime.
Interrogation, all day, all night. What are your evil intentions towards mankind? L. Ron Hubbard, Tom Cruise, and it didn't end until I had to admit to things that I didn't feel. And until I said Tom Cruise is an amazing humanitarian, as well David Miscavige, and they are the only hope that man has, was I able to leave. And that cost me $300,000. Yeah, and I did it.
Tony, is Gold Base as benign as it looks?
So many nightmare stories come out of this location.
But longtime critic of the church, Tony Ortega, says Shelley and David Miscavige lived together in palatial comfort here at the Gold Base compound, an hour and a half east of LA, until 2005. It's believed that summer, while David was away, Shelley finished some outstanding administration without her husband's approval. That action, it seems, sealed her fate.
He just blows his stack. And I've got eyewitnesses to this. He had the biggest temper tantrum of all time. A week later, she vanished.
The fact that at the time no one dared ask where Shelley was, including her own father-in-law, Ron Miscavige, is a chilling insight into the way David Miscavige rules the church. She disappears from sight. Did you ask David where she was, your daughter-in-law? Did...
Listen, you don't ask Dave a question like that. You just wouldn't do it. I could not say to him, where's Shelley? Just wouldn't do it.
But Ron is convinced Shelley is alive. What do you think her state of mind might be?
Resignation. She has no hope whatever of ever getting in the good graces of Dave or going free. None.
Coming up, calling for answers. Will the church leader pick up the phone?
I'd like to get through to speak to my son.
Plus, a religion ruled by fear. Did David Miscavige ever beat you?
Many times.
And haunted by mystery.
Hello? We'd like to talk to you about Shelley Miscavige.
That's next on... Okay, well, good luck.
Church of Scientology of New York, how can I help you?
I'd like to get through to speak to David Miscavige. That's my son. This is Ron Miscavige.
Oh, I see. I totally got it. Hold on.
Ron Miscavige is trying to reach his son, the leader of the Church of Scientology, David Miscavige. Do you think she's looking for the number all this time?
No, I think she's gone into a point of indecision, not knowing what to do.
Today, Ron is put on hold for nearly 5 minutes before being transferred to an answering machine.
Hey, this is Ron Miscavige.
As disappointing as this is for Ron, it comes as no real surprise.
If you can get through to David, tell him to give me a call. Have a good day.
Ron's been shunned by his son since he left the church 7 years ago.
I'm no longer a person in his life. And that's the fact of the matter, okay?
Godspeed, lightning speed, and
It's a pattern David Miscavige seems to have perfected, shunning not just his father, but also his wife, Shelley Miscavige, who vanished 13 years ago. With Shelley's parents dead, actress Leah Remini is taking action to find her. What do you think has happened to Shelley?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I filed a police report, missing persons report. It's just, no, you're not getting any answers. We don't have to answer you. Shelley is fine, and she's alive and well, and that's the PR line.
And do you believe that line?
No, I don't.
Police say Leah's missing person report was unfounded, a finding she won't accept. Leah wants proof from the police they met with Shelley, proof from the church that Shelley is okay. Do you believe she's alive?
I hope so.
As preposterous and shocking as the Shelley Miscavige case may seem, making people disappear is not alien to this so-called religion. Here at the Gold Base compound, senior executives of the church, up to 120 at one time, were banished to a makeshift prison called The Hole for unknown crimes and given sentences that seem never-ending. Some of those executives have been imprisoned now for 15 years. The whereabouts of others is still unknown. It really is quite unbelievable.
There was no end It wasn't like you were sentenced for a week or sentenced for a month or until X, Y, and Z happens. It was just you went in there and then sort of tried to figure out what you were supposed to do in order to qualify to get out.
The hole was 2 double-wide trailers joined together with bars on the windows and guards at the doors. Those imprisoned were given slops to eat, the floor to sleep on, and sometimes no electricity. Physical abuse was also part of the daily diet. Despite his senior role as international spokesperson for the church, Mike Rinder was sent there for 2 years. Did David Miscavige ever beat you?
Many times.
And did you witness him beat others?
Many times. I've seen David Miscavige beat people up hundreds of times.
Does he have a conscience?
Yeah, you know, I really don't know. And if I don't know, I guess he doesn't have one. Because some of the things he does, I couldn't do.
Having broken away, Ron Miscavige and his second wife Becky are now enemies of the church, which means under Scientology law, they've been cut off from their loved ones who continue to follow the faith.
You know, I feel griefy because, look, I lost my family. It's like they're dead. They're gone. My 2 daughters, my grandchildren. But to attain freedom, it was worth it. Because this church is not a church, it's a cult. In every sense of the word.
Ron and Becky's escape from this cult is an extraordinary story in itself. Scientology was their spiritual home for 42 years. But in 2012, they knew they had to get out.
I was 76 years old, and I'm the father of the chairman of the board. Nobody thinks I'm going to escape. That was the biggest cover I had.
If they'd caught you trying to escape, you and your wife, what would they have done to you?
I would have never gotten out. Since if I'd have been caught doing that, then I would have had a security guard watch me 24 hours a day for the rest of my life.
It was Sunday morning, the 25th of March 2012, and with their bags secretly packed, they made a run for it.
My heart is in my throat. The gate opens. I says, Becky, we're turning left. I turned left and stomped my foot on the accelerator. And when we're getting close to Wisconsin, Becky called. She called her brother, Donnie, and she said, Donnie, I'm coming home. This is terrible. I'm sorry. Let me get composed here. And he said out loud, he says, somebody get me a drink. Becky's on the way home. I said, a moment of joy. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, why does it make you emotional, do you think?
Fuck. All right. So, next question.
Coming up, $500 million worth of property, Scientology's enormous wealth.
The biggest single source of income for Scientology in the world.
A father's warning.
It could be the greatest con that's ever been practiced on the public.
And could this be where Shelley Miscavige is?
Well, that's just too frustratingly close.
I know. I was telling you, we gotta get very close to her if she's in there.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Okay, Clearwater, here we come.
Yep.
Clearwater is the biggest single source of income for Scientology in the world.
That makes Clearwater, Florida, the Scientology tax-free capital of the world. As Australian and former Scientologist Mike Rinder points out, the biggest and best buildings here belong to the church, worth almost $500 million.
And then, of course, we're coming up to the big one, which is they call the Superpower Building or the Flag Building.
Most galling, the massive investment seems to be a front. Most of these buildings stand virtually empty. In this day and age, who can afford $500 million worth of property to sit effectively empty?
Scientology can. Scientology takes in enormous amounts of cash, and they don't like giving it away. They don't like spending it on the poor.
But as a religion that has the privilege of tax-free income, Scientology is required to give back to the community. The allegation is They say they do that by providing services here, but Mike Rinder says those services are rarely used.
In large part, Scientology has become a fundraising and real estate empire rather than a spiritual religious empire.
Mike and actress Leah Remini produce and present Scientology and the Aftermath, an emotional TV series exposing terrible suffering at the hands of the church.
If there is one thing that is the common thread that we see throughout the stories of Scientology, it's broken families. It's destroyed families. People who are being forced to disconnect from other family members, and that shouldn't happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Especially an organization calling itself a religion.
The church would have the world believe that Shelley Miscavige has chosen to vanish.
I mean, it's a beautiful place we're in here.
But author Tony Ortega is adamant her disappearance needs to be investigated. We're just a kilometre from the village of Twin Peaks, at the Church of Spiritual Technology, a secret arm of Scientology which is guarded by cameras and high fences. It's here half a dozen devotees are inscribing on titanium plates the words of L. Ron Hubbard to preserve them for the next 6,000 years, stored in an underground bunker.
So it's not so much about what they've got to hide, but what they've got to protect.
Exactly.
There's another camera there, another one there.
Tony Ortega says 4 different people from within Scientology have told him that this is where Shelley Miscavige has been for the last 13 years.
I believe this building on the corner is the residence of the person that runs this facility.
Right, okay.
And the one next to it may be where Shelley lives.
Just here?
Yeah, right here.
Well, that's just too frustratingly close.
I know. I was telling you, we're going to get very close to her if she's in there.
As we approach the compound, it's eerily quiet with no one in sight. There's certainly no answer at the gate, despite multiple attempts to raise someone.
Now, they wouldn't have abandoned the site, would they?
No, they're in there.
And while there are cars in the drive and lights on, it seems no one's home at the guard station across the road either.
Hello? We'd like to talk to you about Shelley Miscavige. Hello? If you can see us, please come out. We'd like to talk to you.
So do you think they know we're here?
Oh yeah, of course they know. There's cameras on every square inch of this place.
Shelley's supporters believe she's now so indoctrinated and trained in the ways of the church, she would never leave, even if given the chance. Just seems like an incredibly cruel thing to do.
It's I don't understand some of the people that say, well, she's probably okay. I mean, how do we know? We don't know. It's incredible that this is going on in the United States right now.
I just want to know where Shelley Miscavige is. Contact their relations with the Church of Scientology. I'll say it over and over again. Do your job right.
I look forward to seeing if they actually
give us an answer. If you try, you might get someplace.
Let's see, shall we?
Wow.
Thank you.
As promised, we did contact the church. Their representatives said our request to interview David Miscavige was preposterous. A lawyer acting for Shelley Miscavige told us she's not missing, and she's disgusted with Leah Remini for suggesting she is. You know, of course, because you've heard it many times, that the heads of Scientology deny everything you're saying. They say that you were never beaten, nobody ever beat you, you were never tortured, you were never in the hole.
Okay.
You're just seeking publicity, and you're a stalker of Shelley Miscavige.
Right. It's getting boring, this response from Scientology, and I'm going to say it, I'll say it every time now. Cut the bullshit. If what we're saying is untrue, sue us. Me and Mike. We're ready for the lawsuit. So that's what I keep saying. We welcome your lawsuit. We welcome it.
Ron Miscavige, too, says he will not be cowed by the church or his son David. Now that he's escaped Scientology, he's intent on warning others that this is not a church, but a con.
It could be the greatest con that's ever been practiced on the public. I'm not doing this for pleasure. I'm a musician. I do that for pleasure. This I do out of duty. I'm a United States Marine veteran. We don't walk with our tail between our legs.
But when your enemy is your son, it must be a very hard thing to do, to sit here and talk about it.
It's hard for me to do it, but I'm not a goddamn victim. I'm doing something about it.